Hello everyone, welcome back to our third video in this quick series of Central NAT review and site-to-site VPN demo. So in our last two videos we essentially reviewed NATs on the FortiGates and also enabled Central NAT and configured our Central NAT to work the way that we did before. So once again, my name is Devin Adams. I'm a Fortinet instructor here in Tempe, Arizona, and I work for Dynamic Worldwide. And I do these videos for my participants who have questions, and we are now moving along reaching our overall goal. So now that we have Central NAT established and everything, let's create the site-to-site VPN tunnel. And this is really where the situation or the scenario of one of my participants who took my class asked me about, and he was just kind of reaching out, getting my opinion about it. I'm like, that's pretty interesting. So what needs to happen here is essentially we need to create a site-to-site tunnel. So we have our FortiGate here in headquarters, and we have a customer. Now this customer needs to be able to hit these three servers. These three servers are actually plucked out of a /24 subnet. So we don't necessarily want them to have access to all the servers, okay? Just the ones that we give, access to. But we don't want to give them our actual IP addresses. We want to create a DNAT through that VPN tunnel so our customers can only see 10.10.10.10, 11, and 12. So we're going to obscure the actual ones here. Before all of this can happen, though, we have to create the VPN tunnel itself. And something else to keep in mind, I'm just going to assume that we don't have control over their stuff. All right, so essentially we're going to say, hey, this is the settings. This is how it's going to work. These are the IP addresses. Make it happen. And they don't need to see or know about the 172.25 network. All they need to know about is, hey, here's your range of servers that you need to access. And the closest or the most narrow subnet that I could find, by the way, was the /29, which will be written right here. So essentially, we're going to do a 10.10.10.8 with the /29, which will give us 6 usables, and they fall within that range, okay? And that's all the remote customer is ever going to see. To them, that's all that lives on our internal network through that VPN tunnel. But we got to get it up and running. So, I was going to set up the customer side to kind of obscure it, but because I have control over the FortiGates, we're going to do it from the customer side, all right? And I'm just going to use the wizard. And these IP addresses here are the public IP addresses, by the way, that we're making believe that are public. And yeah, so let's set up the customer side, and then we'll try to get it running from our FortiGate side. And we just happen to be running a FortiGate on the customer side, so let's go ahead and do that. So let me get to my firewall here, and I'm just doing this kind of like as a quick review. So we'll go to 10. What is my IP address? 192.168.1.1. All right, admin password. So our customer is going to go ahead and try to establish a connection with us. So we're going to use the convenience of the GUI and also the convenience of the wizard. So we'll do Ipsec, wizard. All right, and we'll just say 2HQ, site to site, FortiGate. There's no NAT between the sites. Yep. We'll hit next. All right. So this is going to be the public IP address of the FortiGate that we're reaching out to. So this is going to be the headquarters 10.200.1.1. This will be the public IP address of us, meaning our organization, all right? And it did a route lookup and found it on port 1, so that works. And then we're going to do a super secret password. Don't tell anyone. What? Okay, you wouldn't do that in real life, but that's okay. And here we're going to pick our local subnets. Now we're going to say, hey, you know what? Our traffic here is going to, go through that tunnel, and we want it to pop out, and all they're going to see is the NATed IP addresses. In theory, I really don't know if this is going to work because I've never done it with Central NAT, but we're going to try it. Because remember, the Central NAT actually happens in the table before it hits the firewall rules, in theory. So we're going to say 10.10.10.8 with the /29. So that should be the range, okay? And what's nice about the wizard is everything should be set up. Our firewall rules, our static routes, so on and so forth. And we should be ready for action. So that was the customer side though. All right, let's go ahead and do it on on our side, which I'm just rolling with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our FortiGates. All right, so I'll get to the web browser. And I'm going to assume that I don't necessarily know about them owning a FortiGates. I only know what I provided them and vice versa. So I'm going to go to our firewall here. I'm going to log in. There we go. All right. And then I am going to go ahead and create a VPN tunnel. So I'll say Ipsec tunnel. As you guys can see, nothing's there. I hit create new. It jumps us to the wizard. All right. So we're going to say, hey, you know what? This is custom. And this is going to be to customer A or something like that or whatever. So here we go. I don't know why that's bugging me. There we go. We'll hit next. All right. And then the public IP address of my customer is going to be 10.200.3.1. And it's going to be popping out of the WAN. All right. NAT transversal, we're not using NAT-T. Okay. So, all right. We don't need to provide them with IP addresses, so we don't need mode config. Okay. So, the pre-share key has to be that same pre-share key. All right. And then we are going to follow the settings that we had on our customer side. So our proposal 1 should match the encryption levels, the authentication using the hashes, and also the right Diffie helmet group, so on and so forth. By the way, why these are so low is because they are the free VMs. So I'm using just the trial ones so people can simulate this using like GNS3 and the trial ones, and that's the only reason why you're seeing DES there. It's the only reason why you're seeing MD5. All right, no big deal. But where it's going to come really be interesting is this thing here, and that's going to be our local and remote addresses. Okay. Now, I know for a fact that the remote address that we're connecting out to, at least the one that they told me, that's a no-brainer, because that's going to be a 192.168.1.0 with a /24. I know that's where it's going. What I'm confused about is, where does the natting happen? So if we create the DNAT, right, do we have to put it in this quick mode selector? Does it happen before or afterwards? Can we leave it the quad 0? I frankly do not know, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I've never done it before like that. So I'm actually going to leave it, believe it or not, blank and just roll with it. Okay, I'm not afraid to fail. Let's fail hardcore. Okay, so here we go. And now, just because we have the tunnel configured does not mean it's going to work. So the next thing we need to do is to establish the static route to build up the traffic or build up the tunnel if we ever reach out to the customer. So I'm going to go over to our network, and I'm going to go to my interface. And I'm going to tell the FortiGate, not interface, boo, static route. It's getting late, guys. My static route. And I'm going to say, hey, you know what, buddy? If you're ever trying to get to the 192.168.1.0/24 network, I need you to leave out that VPN tunnel. All right? I'm just going to leave it at that. Good times. Okay? So at least this will push the traffic out towards the customer. All right? Now we need the DNAT rules. Okay? So now the DNAT rules is going to get interesting because I'm going to use the traditional DNAT like we did before. So let's go to policy and objects. Let's go to DNAT. And for example, this was kind of our test, right? So I'm going to open this bad boy up, and I'm actually going to say, I'm going to rename this to server 1. Okay? And the server 1, it's going to be actually my VPN. All right? And they're going to be trying to access it by going to 10.10.10.10. So when it sees that, it's going to make the swap out to 172.25.63. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. All right, and I'm going to do that with server 2 and server 3. And normally I'd hit the pause button, but you know what? You guys can just kind of like scroll through. I'm just going to keep doing this. So I'm not a YouTuber, guys. Sorry. No magic here. You're going to have to watch me do the grunt work. Here we go to customer. All right. And that's going to have an external of 10.10.10.11. But here we're going to map it to 172.25.6.91. All right. And I'm going to say OK. And then we have our last server, okay, which is going to be server 3. Popping out of that VPN tunnel, and if it pops out of that VPN tunnel and it's asking for 10.10.10.12, we're going to give it 172.25.6.242. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting, because with Central NAT, all right, it works different than it does with our traditional NATing. So traditional NATing on the FortiGate required us to actually create a VIP object. This VIP object, for all intents and purposes, is configured just like we configured these 3 VIPs here for the rules. But it is an object that you select and define in the firewall policy. And that's where the natting happens. Well, in Central NAT, with our DNATs, you can create an obscure like all to that server farm. And depending on where it's coming in from and what it's requesting, it should dynamically send it to the right machine without us having to define each one of those VIP objects, in theory. Okay, so just to fast forward a little bit, we have our static route, we have our VPN tunnels, all right? We have our DNAT, but we kind of got to make it work with what, guys? We got to make it work with a firewall policy, right? Or we won't be able to initiate traffic. So let's go to our IP4 policy, all right? And then I'm actually going to steal this bad boy right here, because we don't really need it, because it was just a test anyways. All right, but instead of source all, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? You need to come from that customer's IP address, and that customer's IP address is going to be 192. Oh, sorry, customer, right? That's going to be 192.168.1.0/24. Okay, and that's only allowed coming out of the VPN tunnel, and we're going to use it in our static routes if we need to. And how many ands can we get? I'm going to color it just so it stands out. All right. So boing, 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 boing. Where you at? And didn't show up. Cute. Let's take a look here. Probably because I bound it to the VPN tunnel. Yeah, look at that. Good old FortiGate. So what just happened there is because I wasn't referencing it through the VPN tunnel, it actually filters out the results here. That's something that the FortiGates do, by the way, guys, just to warn you. It's called cross-referencing. It's almost like an index, and that keeps us from screwing up. So in the GUI, if we're not referencing that whole, VPN tunnel that we bound that address to, we're not going to see it unless we have it selected in our firewall policy beforehand. So just something to warn you guys, if you can't find your address objects or something that you created and you have narrowed it down, it's called a cross-site reference check. It only happens in the GUI. It does not happen in the CLI. Okay, so that's why the CLI is a little bit more flexible. It's just to keep us from screwing up. So here we go. But I'm going to leave the destination to our traditional subnet, and the natting should, in theory, happen on its own. Okay, I keep saying in theory because I really don't know. So, okay, so that's there. Now that's just traffic coming in from our VPN tunnel to our remote servers. Okay, let's take this one step at a time. So let's go ahead and spit up the tunnel, and let's see if we cannot get traffic or get traffic to at least pass from the customer site to one of our servers. Okay, because honestly, guys, I don't know what's going to happen. So let's go to our VPN. Let's actually go to monitor, IPsec. It's down. Let's bring it up. All right. Now, it did not negotiate, so it did not happen. So something happened there. What? Let's take a look. So that's okay. By the way, guys, my YouTube videos, I record even the errors. All right. So you can see how to troubleshoot this bad boy. So let's go to our logs. Yeah, let's go check out our logs. And let's see why that tunnel did not happen. So, all right. All right, so it happened, it happened, it happened, it happened, it happened. It was success to customer. So why did it shut back down? All right, well, everything looked fine there. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at why it failed on the other side. Okay, so everything looked like it happened just fine on this side, but it obviously didn't come up. So let's hop over to the other side of the rainbow. This is when we call up our customer and be like, hey, your tunnel didn't work. All right, well, bite me. No, I'm just kidding. So let's take a look here. Let's go to our monitor. All right, actually, let's look at the log files. Let's go to log and reports. Let's go to our VPN events. Okay. So we have phase 1, phase 1, phase 1, but that's where it stopped. And as you guys can see, we have a phase 2 failure. Now, believe it or not, this is what I was expecting, and I'll tell you why. The reason why I was expecting this is because, remember I said let's handle one direction before the other. So one, we don't have the firewall rules to really negotiate coming from the inside out, but more importantly, we don't have the SNAT rule to make that happen. We only have the DNAT rule to make that happen. I know that sounds a little confusing, but essentially we told it to destination NAT. So when it comes knocking on the door asking for 10.10.10. Then do the natting. We never told it to look for 172. So when it saw 172, it's like, I don't have a quick mode selector for that. I'm only looking for the 10.10.10.8/29 network. So it dropped it. Watch what happens now out of curiosity if we negotiate the tunnel, though, from the other direction. Because remember, we left the quad 0 in there. Okay? So let's go down to our tunnel. And let's go to our Ipsec. And let's try to bring it up from this end. Now, it failed again. So let's go ahead and see why. Okay, so let's go to our VPN and let's go to our Ipsec logs and reports, and let's look at our VPN events. Now what's interesting is now it actually was successful because we used the quad 0, right guys? See how it says phase 1, everything was successful, okay, until it got to phase 2. And then let's pop this open. It said negotiate okay. All right. But there was nothing, there's nothing on the other side matching up that rule for a firewall policy, so it dropped it. See how we're kind of like in a catch-22 situation here? So pretty crazy. So let's go ahead and try to fix. All right, guys, sorry about that. I was trying to pause it so I could do some quick diagnostics and ended up crashing my video app. So to pick up where I left off right there, it was negotiating phase 2 on the other side, right? And not on the headquarters side. And it turned out that the real reason why it wasn't negotiating was actually the quad 0. It just did not like the quad 0 being there. Now, I'm pretty sure there was some setting that I probably should have selected. That's probably somewhere in the advanced settings, like dynamic quick mode or quick selector dynamic something. Let's just take a look. Okay, I don't want to confuse you guys here. So if we go to the VPN tunnel that we created, all right, and we open up this bad boy. So it turned out it did not like the quad 0. So instead of having the quad 0 here, I went ahead and I put it in, are you ready? The NATed IP address that's going to be coming from the other side, not the actual private IP addresses of the server farm. Okay? And like I said, let's actually check that super quick here if there is an option. Let's edit our pencil. And I'm pretty sure I could probably tweak something in here to maybe make like a, you know, make it dynamically use the quad 0. I'm not even going to go there for right now, okay? Just simply because it's probably this auto negotiate, by the way, because I know that there is a special setting that you need to do for the quad 0, but that's okay. Essentially, I went ahead and I did the 10.10.10.8 with the /29, which covers the subnets of the NATed IP addresses, and that really was the part that I did all of this for, was to figure out what you had to select here. Now that that's done, okay, we should be able to bring that tunnel up. All right. So if we go ahead and go to our IPsec monitor and we bring it up, it can now establish, because it found the phase 1 and it also found the phase 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at the log files real quick just to verify that. And we'll see that phase 2 is now negotiated successfully. Okay, so that was really the missing part of the pie. Let's test it out. Are you guys ready? Now remember, this is from the customer side. They only should have access to these servers here. All right, so let's do a little testing. All right, let's load up the, oh, stop. Let's load up a terminal here. Okay. And let's go ahead and try to ping one of those servers. So ping 10.10.10.10. And as you can see, it did it. Yay! All right, so, and what's interesting too is, let's go ahead and close that real quickly, and let's try to ping the actual IP address through there and see if it works. Because if that happens, then we got to go back to the drawing board, right? So, because we wanted to protect it. And as you guys can see, because of the DNAT rules, there was no DNAT functionality there, so it dropped it. So once again, it's accomplishing its goal. It's pinging it from its DNAT IP address through the VPN tunnel, okay? And it's not doing it from the actual IP address. So there you guys go. That worked. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to the ping.10.10.10.10. whatever, and let's run over to our other FortiGate now, and let's take a look at that session table. So what's interesting is you'll see, all right, that traffic is coming through, okay? And as you can see, we have it using both of those IP addresses, so on and so forth, okay? Now, what I mean by it's interesting is, because we didn't do any SNAT rules, if traffic gets initiated for the first time from like this server here, all right, it will actually use the first outgoing IP address in that pool. So in theory, so let's go ahead and test that real quickly. So even though this is coming from 10.10.10.12, let's go ahead and actually ping this remote PC, initiating the conversation from the server side. Now, I think my video actually crashed before I could show you guys. I did end up writing the firewall rule to do the opposite direction. I cannot remember if I showed that. This video is going way too long. But let's go ahead and do our, come on, firewall rules, policy and objects. Okay. So as you can see, I cloned it, the reverse, and that's all that I did there. So we should be able to initiate traffic from the inside out from the servers, which was one of the requirements that one of my participants asked about. So let's go ahead and ping 192.168.1, and I have no idea what that IP address is actually. So let's go back to our remote server here real quickly. All right. And let's do a IF config. All right, so it's rocking a 152. Sure. So here we go. 152. So as you can see, we can get from the inside out through that VPN tunnel to that customer side. All right. But I'm curious of what IP address it's using as it's NATed, it's SNAT. So we never defined that rule. So let's go over here. All right. Let's go to our FortiView and see our active table. So, all right, let's go. Security Fabric. No, not Security Fabric. FortiView. let's go down to our all sessions. Okay. And as you can see here, our source, our destination, 10.10.10.10, our NATed address. All right. Do we have like a ping going on somewhere else that I don't know about? Anyways, let me see if I can't catch that. There we go. Oh, look at that. It did do the correct IP address. All right, not too bad. So it did do the reverse, so we don't even need to write the SNAT rule. Let's make sure we're doing that for sure, though, by initiating the traffic from the server 2 side. And for the server 2 side, we're just going to ping 192.168.1.1. All right, that's the FortiGate itself on the internal side. And if I can get there in time. Okay. Oh, it is doing 11. So we don't even need to write the SNAT rule. And that is the default behavior regardless if you're using Central NAT or not. And it does that to try to keep things symmetrical. So what I mean here is that if you guys do have a DNAT rule, a destination NAT, a VIP, that's being configured, if you have traffic and the firewall rule to initiate from the inside out, all right, instead of the outside in, it will use the DNAT as its outgoing interface to keep symmetrical traffic coming back to the right direction. So actually, that's all we have to do to configure it. There's nothing else for us to do. So that video was a little bit sloppy, guys, but it accomplished both of these rules. Okay, so just remember, the first thing we had to do was create the VPN tunnel. And it turned out that we needed to use in our quick mode selectors the DNAT, not the actual NAT, or not the actual private NAT of the server farm. Okay. Then after that, we created the DNATs for each one of these, going from the inside, the remote customer side, out to our server farm. We wrote the firewall rules. Now, when you write the firewall rules, you still just point to the server farm. It's the Central NAT table that does all of the VIP IP addressing on the fly. Okay, and then once the tunnel was established, it worked. So we actually nailed out videos 3 and 4 here, and I know that this video is way too long. If this was confusing, guys, I can always try to re-record this. Okay, but as you can see, we have now accomplished our goal. We have actually done a VPN tunnel and done destination NAT through that VPN tunnel using Central NAT. So not my best video, but I wanted to make sure I showed you guys, you know, the problems on top of the solution. So feel free to give me your feedback there. I'm kind of rushing this because I know that the person that asked me about it really wanted to see something working as a proof of concept. And so I'm just going to go ahead and release it just the way that it is, guys. I hope someone found that helpful, and if not, I will go ahead and blast it out of the water and try to re-record it when it's not like 10 o'clock at night. So, all right, guys, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next series. So, all right, take care.